Welcome back to LDB Games. I'm Lord Darth Balls, and this is a Raid Shadow Legends video. And in this video, I'm going to go through the best turn meter control champions for facing ASTRANYX, the Dark Fae. If you do not have Hegemon or a fast enough nuker that is strong enough to take out your copies of your team before you get turns, one of the best ways to control the duplicate team is with turn meter control. So there are 3 different types of turn meter control champions that I'm going to highlight in this video. And disclaimer, there are going to be a lot of valuable champions for this fight that I may not mention. However, the ones that I mention are going to be some of the most effective to use in this fight. So the 3 different types of turn meter abilities that I'm going to go over today are AoE turn meter decrease and AoE turn meter increase abilities, single target turn meter decrease abilities, and random hit turn meter decrease abilities. So the AoE turn meter increase, turn meter decrease is going to be the champion that you want to go first, because you want to push back the enemy team's turn meter and you want to push yours forward to ensure that you get more turns before they start to go. The single target turn meter decrease champions, you want a few of these in this fight because you need multiple champions knocking down the turn meter of ASTRANYX on a consistent basis to ensure that the boss gets as few turns as possible. And then the random hit turn meter decrease champions are similar to the single target ones. The difference is they are more effective when the enemy team is destroyed, right? You don't want to be using these turn meter abilities when the enemy team is still up, because the random hits could go anywhere, and to be the most effective, you want them all landing on the boss. So let's get into the AoE turn meter decrease and turn meter increase champions. First, we had a fusion recently for Morrigan. I know she was chastised in terms of the quality of the fusion. However, she has an incredible A3 for this fight. When booked, it's a 100% chance of decreasing the turn meter of all enemies by 20%, and then it fills all of your team's turn meters by 20% and gives you the increased speed. This right here is incredible and will pretty much assure you, as long as your speeds are within a certain your speeds are close enough together for your team, this will assure that your entire team gets to go before the copy of your team does. Her A1 has a decreased speed, which is also useful for this fight. You want to keep decreased speed up on ASTRANYX as much as possible. And this doesn't really have a play. Yeah, I mean, you could get decreased accuracy on the boss, which is kind of nice. It's not 100% necessary, but this can help you resist the fears and the true fears that ASTRANYX puts out. Other than that, I mean, she's got a nice speed aura in her kit. So let's move on to the next one. The next one is actually a free-to-play champion. This champion is free just by playing the game for 30 days, and that is High Katoon. Now, High Katoon's got a really cool kit overall for just speed in general, right? She's got an all battle speed buff on her aura, which is incredible. She's got an AoE with a, it's only a chance of decreasing the turn meter by 15%. However, she is a completely free champion. And then, even though it's not the same skill, this still helps out in her kit, fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%, and places a decreased speed on all allies for 2 turns. So while not nearly as effective as Morrigan, can be very effective and is completely free, not even something you have to earn. You literally just got to log in for 30 days. So, another actually free-to-play champion, yes, because you can farm this champion in campaign, is a rare, and it's Diabolist. Now, Diabolist has a flat-out turn meter flip here. Fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% and decreases the turn meter of all allies by 15%. Beautiful. She's also got an increased speed on all allies, which is really nice. Her A1 doesn't have any play in this fight. Getting into the epics, there is one epic that has this kind of multiple turn meter control. Whoops, he is a Sacred Order. And that is Deacon Armstrong. This champion is incredible in a lot of different areas of the game. He is another one that comes with a 19% speed aura in all battles. And he has the same ability as Diabolist, except he gets an extra turn after it, and has an AoE decreased defense, which can just help you get rid of the duplicate copies of your team very, very quickly. And he's got a leech on the A1, which means you can get that leech up on ASTRANYX, and you can start get some healing from the attacks that you do. When it comes to legendaries, there are 4 legendaries that I'm going to highlight with an AoE turn meter increase, turn meter decrease. One is going to be Cathalia. Cathalia is one of the best healers in the game. Just as a side note, it's a single target cleanse, and then heals that ally by 75% of their max HP. And then, if that target is fully healed, it's another heal, an AoE heal, and an AoE turn meter fill, which is just wild. But she's also got a 100% chance of removing all buffs from all enemies, so she can take the Perfect Veil off of ASTRANYX at the start of the fight, then decreases all turn meters of all enemies by 10% and fills turn meter of all allies by 10%. So not a very big turn meter exchange, but still a very powerful ability. This probably won't come into play at all unless you have massive buffers on your team, which isn't usually recommended. She also brings an HP burn on her A1, which is nice. That's just some extra damage for when ASTRANYX gets a turn. All right, moving on, we've got a high elf. This chick is on my wish list and will always be on my wish list until I get her. Lysandra. She is one of the speed queens in the arena. She brings a 24% ally speed in all battles aura. And she's got this insane turn meter swing. Very similar to Morrigan. This is actually a little bit better though. Puts an increased speed on all allies for 2 turns, fills the turn meter by 30%, and then decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 30%. Again, a massive turn meter swing. She's got a cool A1, but it won't come into play here at all, really. And then her A2 has a fully depletes target's turn meter. So this is one of the styles of turn meter that you want to look at in this fight, and so she comes in as just an all-around top-tier champion for this fight if you are lucky enough to have her. As you can see, I am not. A very underrated champion's gotten more play since Hydra came out. Again, another one that I don't have is Shamrock. And Shamrock has a 30% decreased speed on all enemies and a decreased turn meter on all enemies by 15%. And the fill is conditional if the enemy's turn meter is below 50%, which, if you've got them running fast enough, there should be at least 1 or 2 champions in the enemy team that will be below 50% for the extra boost on your team. He brings some cool mechanics too, with some damage mitigation, increased speed, and revive on death. His A1 doesn't really come into play at all, however. And the final legendary with an AoE increased turn meter, decreased turn meter is going to be a fairly new champion in the game, and this champion's got a really cool kit. Tramaria. Tramaria comes in with a 23% speed aura in all battles, which is incredible. And then she's got this this A3 here. Removes all debuffs from all allies, so full team cleanse. Fills the turn meter of each ally by 15%. And an extra 10 if they've got True Fear on them. And ASTRANYX puts True Fear out. So this doesn't just have application at the start of the fight. This helps you throughout the fight. You may want to build her with like a dual accuracy resistance build. And then it has an additional 5% for any debuff removed. So you can get a real nice turn meter boost out of this under certain conditions. And then she has an AoE that, yes, has an 80% books to 100% chance placing a stun, but also has a 100% chance of decreasing the turn meter by 30% for enemies without stuns. So this is huge, right? You can start the fight with either her A2 or her A3, depending on how you would play it. I would recommend the A2 because it's a complete lockout of the enemy, and it will reduce the turn meter of the boss at the same time. She is such a cool champion. And then she's got this really cool passive here that when she gets a true fear, increases her turn meter. And then she's got an AoE decrease speed on her A1. This doesn't come into play because the copies of your team shouldn't be alive for very long. But that AoE decrease speed is a really nice ability. So that wraps up the AoE increased turn meter, decreased turn meter champions. Let's look at the single target turn meter decrease champions. So the AoEs are for pushing the enemy copies of your team back and boosting your team forward. Once the copies of your team is down, you need single target turn meter reduction champions to keep ASTRANYX's turn meter as low as possible. So first, to start, should be an obvious one for anyone that's played this game for some time, would be Armiger. And Armiger comes in with this A1, decreases turn meter by 30% if the attack is critical. All you need is 100% crit rate and enough accuracy to do the job. That's it. And he's squishy enough to be easy to take out early on after the copy of him is created. He's an incredible champion in this game. He's really like an epic or a legendary in uncommon skin, in my opinion. We've got a couple rares coming into the mix here. One of them, actually two of them, are Dark Elves. We've got, oh no, only one of them is Dark Elves. Cold Heart, obviously, for her completely decreases the target's turn meter by 100% on her enemy max HP ability, which also does a nice chunk of damage. And then we've got a Barbarian in here as a rare, and that is Soulbond Boyer, who is an integral champion in some of the high secret rooms, the rares onlys, because she's got an AoE on her A1. However, her A3 has a 75% books to 100 chance of fully depleting the target's turn meter, and has some pretty decent multipliers on this as well. So she comes in pretty useful in this fight. There are also 3 free champions that can do this job. Vizix, who is a Dark Elf, is free. I think she's 270 days. I think she's the last free login champion. All you gotta do is play the game. She's got a double hit on her A1 with a 100% chance when booked of decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%. That's a 30% reduction on an A1. Nearly identical to Armiger, however, the double hit makes it slightly less reliable as there's always the 3% chance of resistance. And then she actually gets a boost, too, for what she reduces on the other turn meter, which is pretty awesome. Keeps her going quick. She brings some additional utility, an AoE with a decreased speed and ally protection, and she's got an AoE provoke. And these two AoEs, they hit pretty damn hard. So she can come in really useful for getting rid of the duplicate champions as well. Another free one is a Barbarian. This guy is earned by collecting fragments from from the clan shop. Building up your clan gold, completing those quests, and buying your Carl fragments. He's got a really interesting kit. But the only reason that I highlight him here is because he's got a 100% target turn meter steal and an increased speed on himself with a 100% decreased speed on the enemy. So he's putting out decreased speed, he's stealing 100% of the turn meter, right? So he's getting it, putting an increased speed on himself, and then getting another turn, which is just a wild swing. And then he's got an AoE that, where is it? Freeze, some systems. Oh, no, this doesn't come into play. I thought that had some turn meter effect on it. It's really just his A2, but you can use him as an additional control champion to freeze the copies of your team that get summoned. And then the other one is, I guess it's a stretch to call him free because you really, like, this takes some effort to earn. You can see I actually just got him recently. You get him by collecting the fragments from the secret rooms in the hard Doom Tower, Gumlock's Skyhide, and he's got a really cool kit. He comes with a leech on the A1, which is always useful. His A2 has that books to 100% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 50%. And it steals it if he's got full HP, which helps him come back to it even faster. His A3 is pretty cool too. It's an AoE with 100% when booked, decreased defense, and 100% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 10%, and that's an AoE, so that's everybody. And then the second hit has a 100% chance of putting a weaken out if he's got full HP. So you got decreased defense, weaken, turn meter reduction, and turn meter steal. Like, just an incredible kit overall. His passive is pretty good for sustain. He's got a shield on it. Not huge for this fight, but I haven't really played around with him, but he's got a really cool kit. So, outside of the budget options and the free options, there are a handful of champions that have single target turn meter reduction. We've got an epic in the Dark Elves in Lua, and Lua actually hits pretty hard too. She's kind of like an epic version of Coldheart, but just not as good in my opinion. Her A3 has a 100% target reduction on the enemy, which is just like Coldheart's, which is beautiful. She's got a little self-heal here, and this shouldn't come into play because your enemy team shouldn't be alive when she comes around to her A1. We've got a couple more epics, and one of them is a top-tier champion for this fight. That is Geomancer. He comes in for his A3 with a fully depletion target's turn meter. And he fills his turn meter too. It's not a steal, but it's a fully deplete and then fills by the amount he gets. So if the target only has 30% left, he gets the 30% turn meter. But this is incredible because it puts HP burnout as well, which activates his passive. If ASTRANYX does happen to get a turn, it reflects a truckload of damage. I use him in my 120 hard auto farm team because of his ability. And another one is another dwarf actually. And this champion is really cool. I want to playtest her at some point. I've never used her before. She's got a 100% chance of fully depleting the target's turn meter on the A2. She hits really hard as well, and she's got an AoE that fills her turn meter by 15% and then heals if it's critical. So a self-heal on a big hit, like she's got a really cool kit, and she self-buffs if she doesn't have any, like, really cool kit. I definitely want to try her, but her A2 is a really nice ability for this fight. Then we've got a couple legendary callouts. On one hand, I use this chick in my team on hard 120 as well. Lady Kimmy is a top-tier champion for this fight. She's got a massive Doom Tower aura for speed, 30%. She has a turn meter fill and an increased speed here, along with an increased accuracy, which can help you hit those accuracy numbers on ASTRANYX, and a random buff remove with a block buffs. So she does so much for the beginning of this fight. She takes the perfect veil off ASTRANYX. She increases your target's, replaces it with a block buff so she can't put it back on again, increases the turn meter of your all allies, and then puts an increased accuracy and an increased speed on your team. Like, just super powerful. And if that wasn't strong enough, she comes in with her A2 on an AoE, 100% chance when booked of a decreased accuracy and a decreased speed, and decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%. And if you still don't think this kit is good enough, she's got an A1 that's got a 50-50 chance of decreasing the target's, books to 60, of decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%. I mean, come on. And then, but wait, there's more, right? Whenever this champion places a debuff, her A1, her A2 and her A3 all have debuffs. Also decreases that enemy's turn meter by 5%. Now, and whenever this champion or an ally receives a debuff, and ASTRANYX does put debuffs out, albeit not very much, fills their turn meter by 5% for each debuff received. I mean, you want to talk top tier for this fight. Lady Kimmy nails the mechanics to the wall, like straight up bullseye. One more kind of random legendary call out, and this guy is like semi underrated slash loved by like a couple people. What faction is he? Oh, he's Sacred Order. I always think he's undead or demon spawn because he looks, I mean, come on. But I guess undead's got enough, so like, yeah. That's fine. He's got a 4 random hitter that puts out Hex that has each hit has a books to 100% chance of stealing 25% of the turn meter. So I'm going to talk about one of the best champions for this fight in a second. Allure has that on her A1 with 3 hits. So this is, you get a 100% chance with, full procs, right? All 4 hits hit ASTRANYX, and booked to 100% steals 100% turn meter with the top RNG, right? Because you obviously have 3% of it not working. And that's only if it's certain factions. And then with the Hex, it activates his damage dealing ability because it's a triple random hitter, and ignores 25% of the defense to targets under Hex, which is just really kind of cool. He's got a self buff on his A1, which is pretty useful. And he's got a couple perfect veils in his kit for damage mitigation. But this A3 is really the reason that I'm calling him out, because it's close to like Allure level. So that brings us to the last 3 champions. I would say 3 of the best choices in this fight. But I keep them separate because their attacks, like Holstring, are random hits. I should have put Holstring in this category. Yeah, Holstring belongs in this category. So we'll just pretend I included him in this. The first one is Allure. And this chick is like the turn meter queen, right? When it comes to facing bosses, right? Because her A1 is all that matters. It's a 3 random hit with not even a chance to do it, just flat out decreases based on a crit. So, and it's 25% per hit, which means with 100% crit, you get 75% turn meter reduction on her A1, which is just incredible. I use her in my 120 farm team. Then we've got another epic coming in, and this guy is in the hard floor 40 team that I did a video on, and that's Royal Guard. And he comes in for 2 reasons, right? He's got a 4 random hitter on his A3, and each hit books to 75% has a chance of placing a decreased speed and decreasing the target's turn meter by 25%. So real on par with, he's like a budget version of Holstring, which is pretty cool. And then the last legendary is going to be, I believe she's a Dark Elf? Yeah, Blind Seer. And Blind Seer is like, it's funny, I call her like a budget version of Allure. I feel like Blind Seer should be the epic and Allure should be the legendary, but there's other stuff in their kit that comes into play. This triple hitter, each hit has a 40% chance when booked of decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%. So you're like, statistically speaking, you're almost guaranteed at least 1 turn meter reduction on that. She's got a really cool revive with block damage on her A3, and she's even got a block debuffs, and a shield on her A2, which can help block those true fears that ASTRANYX puts out. So there it is, guys. I know this was a long one. There are a lot of really valuable turn meter control champions to face up against ASTRANYX, and I know I left out a lot of them. I mean, Arbiter, for one, is just a great free champion to use because she's flat out got an increased attack and a turn meter boost on her A3. And there are some other potential mid-range callouts, but I think I've taken up enough of your time. So if you're still watching, thank you so much for the view. I appreciate all of you as my viewers. I've been Lord Darth Balls. I'll catch you on the next video. Enjoy your raid.